Dartmouth has some aging school buildings and athletic fields. What do you see are the top 3 priorities for the school system for buildings, fields, or other infrastructure? How would you propose funding these projects?
The top 3 priorities for the school systems for our buildings and fields or infrastructure, we're very fortunate and very grateful to the town for providing us with the funding that we need to keep our buildings going, whether it be with new roofs or new windows. And again, I understand that a lot of that is also funded by the Commonwealth through the MSBA program. As far as fields, yeah, we are, and we've said it before, we are field poor because of the number of activities and sports that we offer, not only for our high school students, but all our youth groups in town. I think we need to look at, and it is on the school capital improvement plan, the possibility of putting artificial turf at Dartmouth Living Memorial Stadium. I think that will go a long way in opening up some fields because it will be available almost on a year-round basis to take care of not only our high school sports, but also our youth in the town.
Well, the first thing we need to do is fund our long-range facilities master plan that I have made a push for in our capital improvement requests. The master plan is currently in front of the Capital Improvement Committee. However, I understand it is not going to be funded in the spring election, but rather it's looking at being funded by the CIP committee and town meeting at the fall town meeting. This has to happen in order for us to prioritize our facilities, our fields, our infrastructure needs. Secondly, we need to establish a facilities and infrastructure committee. This would happen only after the facilities master plan had been completed, so we can start to gain stakeholder input from all around the community. There's no easy way to fund any of these capital projects. However, at some point, we need to reinvest in our facilities. Our facilities are aging, roofs have been leaking. We have been fortunate enough to receive MSBA, Mass School Building Authority money over the past several years for school building roofs at both the Potter and DeMello schools, which help reimburse or defray the cost of the roof project for the taxpayers in town. That being said, a master plan would give us the facts we need to make a case to fully renovate our schools or look to rebuild new ones. Unfortunately, right now, the only viable option I see at some point down the road would be a debt exclusion, which would be controversial at the least. We could also look to MSBA to help with funding, but that is not guaranteed either.
A 2000 National Education Association study estimated the cost to repair and modernize America's schools was more than $300 billion. Many school districts are hard-pressed to fund needed upgrades, so they postpone major changes as long as possible. However, rapid changes in technology, new government-mandated programs, and unsafe conditions are making delay increasingly detrimental. 3 factors generally trigger a decision to take a serious look at an aging school: health and safety deficiencies, outdated operating systems, and program changes. I believe the school department and the town need to join forces to take a decisive look at all of our infrastructure to ensure we are exceeding these standards. In the current economic climate, funding will always be a difficult task. We not only need to sell what needs to be done to the parents, students, and staff, but we need to convince the taxpayer. As leaders, we have to address all stakeholders' concerns. By listening to everyone, we will not only gain valuable perspective, but we can ensure that all members of the community are satisfied.
Dartmouth High School is looking into replacing the current block scheduling. Do you believe this is in the best interest of the students? If yes, why? Or if no, what changes would you recommend? Do you believe the students and parents have had input in this process? If yes or no, please explain.
No, I do not feel the current block schedule at the high school is in the best interest of our students. It just simply does not meet their needs. This is something that I have been looking into and working on for the past 3 years I have been on the school committee. An adequate schedule should have year-long classes, advisories, academic support classes, and common planning time. The current block schedule we have at Dartmouth High does not. Over the years, several groups and committees have been formed to look at the schedule. The 2013 Endicott study interviewed students, and that outcome was we need to look into changing our schedule, as well as our latest NEASC report. That also indicated that we need to look into changes with our schedule.
I believe that block scheduling benefits students in many ways. Instruction doesn't become fragmented, and longer class periods give students more time to think and engage in active learning. Teachers benefit from more quality instructional time because less time is lost with beginning and ending class. No matter what direction we go in, I believe that it is important that all teachers, parents, and students have the opportunity to weigh in on the issue. I would recommend the organization of a task force made up of parents, faculty, and students to organize a town hall style meeting so all stakeholders can voice their concerns. Again, by listening to all, we will be able to come up with a solution that best illustrates the will of all individuals.
With regards to the block scheduling, I believe it is still in the works, going through a system of review with teachers and other faculty members and administration. I would like to, if it is going to be replaced, I think what has to happen is we have to make sure that the students are still going to have the same number of classes that they get now, and that the graduation requirements are still the same and the students are not affected in any way. I hope and I know as this process goes forward, we will be involving not only the parents of the students, but the students themselves. And hopefully everyone will be able to come to a good consensus on this process.
With the increase of charter schools in Massachusetts, there is an effort to fund more throughout the state. What is your feeling on this issue? How do you think they should be funded? What do you think their impact will be on local school districts?
The charter school movement is one of the fastest growing education reform efforts in the United States. Charter schools are tuition-free public schools, freed from regulation in exchange for greater accountability. Proponents contend that charter schools may not only provide families and students with another educational choice, but also promote change in the public education system as a whole. However, studies have shown that local school districts tend to be hurt by the formation of these kinds of schools because the per pupil cost follows the student from our school district to the charter school. I don't believe that Dartmouth is a large enough community to warrant the use of charter schools at this time. I believe it is our responsibility to keep as much funding as we can in our district to form a stronger and more effective school system district-wide.
I believe the number of charter schools that we have in the Commonwealth at this point in time is adequate for what we need. What everyone needs to understand is that charter schools take away from the school districts, the communities that they service or that students are sent to them from. There is only so much money in the state budget and the local budgets to go around, and to try and siphon some of those funds off to charter schools, unfortunately, I think does a disservice to the local communities and specifically to the town of Dartmouth. I think the number that we have is good, and I would be one who would be in favor of capping charter schools where they are at this point in time.
I understand why charter schools exist, however, I am against them. When our students decide to attend charter schools, the money that the Dartmouth Public School System, or any school district for that matter, is supposed to receive is diverted to the charter schools. When you look at cities like New Bedford and Boston, this equates to tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars that are diverted away from the public school system.
The proposed fiscal 2017 budget for the school system is $40.8 million. This is a 3.4% increase from this current year's budget. Do you feel this is adequate? If yes, do you feel the funds are allocated appropriately, or do you have other recommendations? If no, how much additional funding do you feel the school department should receive, and where would you apply these funds?
The proposed 2017 budget for our school district of $40.8 million is both adequate and not adequate. I'm very appreciative of what we receive from the Board of Selectmen, the Finance Committee, and what town meeting ultimately votes for us. But with that being said, we are ranked 294 out of 324 in per pupil spending in the Commonwealth. That extrapolates out to over $9 million that we do not have. Again, I realize that funding is an issue, but if we had that $9 million, it would go a long way in making our district even better than what it is. A perfect example of that shortfall is the fact that this year we've left over $1 million in administration and district personnel's requests not being funded, along with other items at this time in the preliminary budget that are not being funded. There is always a way to fund some of these items, but money has got to be the necessary to take care of it.
According to the Massachusetts Department of Education, 2013-2014 school year data, Dartmouth ranks 30th from the bottom in per pupil expenditure. That places us in the bottom 10% statewide of per pupil spending. And if we were to even factor in the health insurance costs and other back-end charges, that would still only put the Dartmouth Public Schools in the bottom 20% spending statewide. So do I think the 3.4 increase we're asking for is adequate to meet the school department's needs? The answer is absolutely no. Do I think the Dartmouth School Department does a great job managing the money they are given? Absolutely. The taxpayers can rest assured their money is being spent well, and the end product is a great education for our students. There were, however, over $1 million in additional requests from principals, department heads, district-wide, that the school committee had to say no to. These requests would directly affect the students' education in Dartmouth because they're all around instruction, meaning staff instruction. The reality is it's a careful balance between doing what the administration and school committee feels is right for students and a number the town can live with.
Any public budget is difficult to craft because in the end, there is always going to be a set of stakeholders that is left unsatisfied. It is the job of elected leaders to take into consideration three things: what our experts recommend, what the district truly needs, and what our parents, children, and teachers desire. However, our key group of stakeholders are our parents and students. They are the pulse of our community, the taxpayer, and the customer. It is vital that we take all their concerns into consideration and find other ways to fund potential shortfalls in the budget. For fiscal year 2017, there was $1,057,977 of budget requests that are not funded. These are not large administration salaries. These are positions that are vital to the day-to-day operation of our schools and the lifetime development of our children. This shortfall breaks down to about $288 per person across our entire community. It's time we look to our neighbors and do what is right for our children.
With school safety a priority all over the country, do you feel that all Dartmouth schools are safe? If yes, why? And if no, what are your recommendations?
Are Dartmouth schools safe? They absolutely are. If they weren't, or if I felt the Dartmouth public schools were not safe, I would not be sending my two daughters to them. While we cannot guarantee there will ever be an outside threat to the schools, I can assure you they are much safer than they were 3 years ago. With monies coming from town meeting, containment areas were built in all of our schools, also known as man traps. Access systems were installed across the district to minimize access to outside doors and control who can enter them. The camera systems are being updated to the latest technology, and technology is also in place between the school department and the police department in the event of an emergency. And most importantly, a committee has been formed to work with all the stakeholders involved to update our emergency policies and make them the latest and greatest, because training is the most important piece of all of this and the culminating factor in making sure our schools are safe.
Unfortunately, we live in an era where our safety is at risk anywhere we go. I believe that it is our responsibility as leaders, parents, and residents of this community to take a realistic approach to how we view security practices within our schools and public buildings. In these volatile times, we must stand vigilant. We must make sure our children are aware of the potential threats that exist in society today, and that they feel safe in our facilities each day. Our staff must have a working knowledge on what to do if a hazardous situation were to take place. School leaders and the police need to work together to create practical solutions that interfere with day-to-day operations as little as possible. Like taking our shoes off at the airport, we must sacrifice convenience to keep our children safer in society.
I believe our schools are safe. We've been, again, very fortunate, thanks to the town, to put in a number of safety issues, double entry doors, the link communications with the police department, and the availability of having school resource officers both in the high school and the Dartmouth Middle School, and the availability of patrol officers during the day stopping in to visit the different schools and make sure that everything is going well. Could we always use more in security, and would it be nice to have an SRO in every school? Yes, it would be. But again, it becomes down to a course of funding and monies, and we need to make sure that everyone is taken care of. So we are safe. I'd like the parents to know that, your students are safe, and everyone, goes through a double set of locked doors before they're able to enter into any of our buildings.
Superintendent of Schools Dr. Bonnie Gifford recently completed an entry plan and presented it to the school committee. The plan included many strengths of the school district, but also included some weaknesses, including communications and the need for reassessment of the math curriculum for the entire K through 12. How do you feel the school system can improve their communication with the community? How should the school system reassess the math curriculum?
Our number one goal should be to improve communication with our parents, students, and teachers, not only when seeking changes, but overall. These individuals should be relied upon as our greatest tool. They are the ones fighting in the trenches day in and day out, and can provide us with the real facts of what works, what doesn't, and where certain line items of the budget should truly be allocated. The need to reassess the math curriculum is a great starting point in the improvement of overall communication. How do students feel? How does the staff feel? How do the parents feel? Does the community have any input? What do the experts say? These are the questions that need to be asked in a public forum so leaders can obtain all perspectives that will assist in making an educated decision for the betterment of our math curriculum and our community.
I always believe that you can be better at communicating with anyone. In this day of social media, whether it be Facebook or Twitter, the school district website, there is always a better way and better ability to communicate with parents and students and community members. And we do that, and our superintendent does that. We as committee members receive a weekly update. There is always information being posted on the school district website on the homepage. The individual schools have items that are ongoing on their webpage. You're always able to look at that. With regards to the math curriculum, math is one of those essential subjects that needs to be looked at all the time. Yes, when I went to school, you still, 1 and 1 was still 2, and you still multiplied 2 times 2 to get 4. What has changed over the years is the way that curriculum is taught, and those students are able to learn these activities and these projects.
I think Dr. Gifford has already improved communication between the school district and the community. This is a process that cannot just happen overnight. She has taken many steps to date to improve the communications with the community. The district currently has a Twitter account that Dr. Gifford tweets from all the time. If anyone's out there in Twitter, know that she is constantly, almost daily, tweeting from that. She also has a television program, or she has been on television programs right here at Dartmouth Community Television, speaking about the school department and the happenings there. And she is also quite visible in the community, as well as in after-school and sporting events. As for the math curriculum, her strategic plan did show that we need to look at the area of mathematics at the high school. I believe that a committee is being formed to look at our math curriculum and look at ways to improve on it.